Sometimes Forex trading is a wild and woolly place to be. That's why Hugh's here, to pose your questions to Walter, the naked Forex guy. Hugh's got questions, and Walter's got the answers. Here at the Truth About FX podcast.
Hey Walter, about what percentage of fundamentals versus technical analysis do you use?
Yeah, this is interesting. I think for me, I'm close as you're going to find to a technical trader. So, in fact, today, as we're recording this, there's a surprise news event that came out, and it's funny because I've been talking the last couple of days about, in my trade update videos, I've been talking about this formation on the chart on the Aussie Kiwi, and I've been saying that the Aussie Kiwi is getting ready to make a giant move up. And today it did that, and it had nothing to do. I mean, one way to look at it is saying, well, Walter, you're just lucky because you were saying that it was a bullish formation, and you're just lucky. The other way to look at it is that the technical chart, the pattern on the chart, sort of foreshadows the fundamental news that came out today that spiked the Aussie up so much. So, I mean, it's sort of the chicken or the egg, what comes first. But for me, I really focus on watching for support and resistance on the chart, and then when the market gets to support and resistance levels, I decide based on the pattern whether or not there's a trade. And usually the answer is no, but occasionally it's yes. So I am probably like 95% technical analysis. And the reason I don't get into fundamentals is I found them to be really difficult to interpret. I found that when news comes out and you think that the market should go this way, but it doesn't, it's not really related to the news. It's more related to, you have to interpret what the market thinks about what's going to happen. So it's almost like, what are the expectations of the market, and where is the market sitting right now relative to what happens in the market when the news comes out. So it's really kind of tricky because you're basically trying to determine what the personality of the market is before the news comes out, and then when the news comes out, you kind of have to say, okay, now that means this or whatever. So to me, it's just not my style. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. I feel like the more time I spend trying to analyze the markets from fundamental point of view, it just doesn't work. And my longest trade, I think it's still the longest trade I've ever had, was several months, and it was on the dollar yen, and every single fundamental news report from every banker and hedge fund trader I ever read during that time was saying that the market was going to go in the opposite direction to my trade. And I kept pyramiding, I kept adding to the position. And it was one of the best trades I've ever had, and it was simply because I was paying attention to the chart, not to what people wrote about that. So I don't know. For me, technical seems to work. Everyone has to decide for themselves. I'd be curious to hear for you if that's something that, do you use fundamentals, or how do you incorporate that into your trading?
Yeah, kind of the same here. I'm probably like 90-10, looking at technicals mostly. I just try to be aware of the fundamental stuff that's coming out, and sometimes there's some really big stuff that will push the market, so I kind of maybe take that into account more. But yeah, same here. I think for me, I can understand the technicals more than the fundamentals. Yeah. It usually is easier for more traders. I think some beginning traders feel like it's easier to go fundamental, but then they quickly learn that it's not. And you bring up a good point, which is if you're trading like lower time frame charts, so I would say anything from 4 hour below, you probably want to pay attention to, am I getting into a trade immediately before this big news report's going to come out? And a big news report would be like an employment or an interest rate decision for that currency, or a CPI or something like that. That would be big news. So those would be the ones that you'd want to stay away from. Or sometimes you'll have other things like, whether or not a country's going to pull out of the euro, or whether or not, the country's going to go to war, or an election. Those things come up occasionally too, but usually they're scheduled on the calendar, and you kind of know, and you go, okay, all right, well, I can basically stay away now because I know that the unemployment report's coming out in another hour. I'll just wait till after that. So yeah, it's a good point. Thanks for the question, Hugh. Thanks for sharing your answer, and see you next time.
See ya.